Hello to all my booty seekers and cheek chasers. This is the Carpe Natem Podcast. I'm your host, Nate Della Hoya-Reynoso, and I'm so grateful you are listening to this episode. If you're new here, you should know that I believe that my purpose is to uplift, inspire, and educate others to communicate masterfully so that they can better understand themselves and the world around them. I've spent years in the personal development and transformational technology space, and I want to share with you the wisdom that was passed down to me from giants in the industry. So if you're on a journey of self-mastery, just like me, looking to make dreams a reality and willing to be a leader for your family and community, then join me in seizing the butt cheeks of life and giving them a big ol' squeeze. Let's jump into the show. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Carpe Natem Podcast. I am incredibly excited to have this person with me because they are such a rare gem. I'm talking like 1 in a trillion, meaning that you will only find one Brigitta Hoeferle in this world, and it's the only one. She's making mini versions of her as she's spreading her love and her joy and her teachings. But they will never compare to the original. This is like the Coke recipe when it first came out. This is how rare it is, right? I love Brigitta. She is a trainer. She studies and teaches neuro-linguistic programming. She's a practitioner as well as somebody who helps get people their certifications for it. I know you're an author. You have so many hats. To just call you a superwoman is still underestimating your capacity to crush and to kill. So, Brigitta, welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, Nate, thank you for having me. This is going to be so much fun. And, I never saw myself as superwoman. I just love what I do with all the hats that I wear. And sometimes I wear them all at the same time.
So for somebody who first time getting to know you, how would you describe yourself? Can you give us a little bit about your background and what you currently have some of your fingers dipped into?
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, we're dipping fingers and wearing hats and all the good stuff. So, oh my gosh, where do I start? Well, first of all, Brigitta, not an English name, neither is Hoeferle. And yes, that is my name that I got from my husband, and my maiden name is not English either. So I'm born and raised in Germany, came to the US in 2004. Gosh, we're going on 20 years. Holy cow. I don't know who's getting old around here. Came to the US to build a Montessori school because I love education. And I came to love education after I hated it for a really, really long time, going through German public school and never being able to fit in or until I learned, Nate, that I wasn't really made to fit in. I was made to stand out. But you tell that to an adolescent, a teenager, they're like, no, but I got to follow all of the others, on social media and all of that. But I never was that kid. And I hurt and I was bullied and I didn't belong, and that was hard. And through that, I said, I want my children to never experience that. And I became an educator, went to university to be an educator, studied social pedagogy and education science, built my own Montessori school for my own kids who are now 16 and 19. And I gotta say, kudos to them for them standing out and being totally okay and being very intentional with standing out and not trying to fit in. So there are many parts of me that love education, that love people, 2 educational institutions that I have built and founded. One I've taken over and the other one I founded coming from Germany, one for children and the other one for adults. And people ask me, so what makes a person first establish a school for children, a Montessori school, where we teach children, age 3 months all the way to middle school, and then establish another educational institute that teaches adults? And I said, well, it's really easy, honestly. Children are innocent by nature. And I found this working with children and then working with parents. And then working with parents, I realized, wait a minute, it's not the kids that need learning. It's the adults that need learning. It's the adults that need shaping. And that's where I got more and more involved in NLP.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it's less about learning and more about unlearning all of the conditioned behaviors and beliefs that we have within each other.
Totally.
Brought to us by our environment, by our parents. It's awesome. I can't teach children. I do not have the heart for it. I do not have the tolerance for it physically because they are so gross and slimy and sticky. And to some people, they love that. So they're like, and I love the fact that you're helping shape a better future. You're creating people who have openness, who have love, who have creativity, who instead of having to be the person that fits into this box, we're standing out and creating our own box, right? We're creating our own I guess we're creating our own sandbox. We're creating our own world within the parameters of the guidelines that we get, of course, not breaking any laws, but changing things so that they're better for the future. I wish more schools were like that, where they really preyed on the skills and the talents of the students rather than, okay, everybody's got to learn, of course, reading and basic math. But then after that, I don't really need to know about the medieval times and I had to build a castle diorama. What did that have to do with being an adult? And I did that project in high school. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. Right. So it's just it's so in high school, I never learned how to do taxes. I never learned how to dress myself correctly, how to tie a tie, how to build a resume, how to become marketable, how to start a business, the difference between a C Corp and an S Corp. There's so many things that I had to learn on my own, and I fell in love with learning on my own. But as a kid, it was the bane of my existence. Can you speak to that and how current systems feel like they discourage uniqueness and creativity and kind of more encourage compliance and uniformity?
Well, yes. And I love to speak that. How much time do we have? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And even in the uniqueness, I find even in the uniqueness of individuals, it also becomes a box, you want to be unique. You want to be individual. Okay. Now you fit over in this unique individual box and everyone dresses the same there. That's still not unique and individual. And I think our school, specifically our public school system, goes by those rules and regulations because it simplifies it. I said it earlier on a different call that I taught. We're trying to simplify humans so we can put them in a box, so they can be easy, digestible, categorized, or just, to simplify it because everything in life is already complex enough. But we can't simplify humans. I don't want to be simplified. Now, I like to be intentional, and I like to be unique the way that I am, and I like to understand the way that I am, and I'd like to help others understand the way that they are. But we're never going to be able to be simplified and put into, and I like to call it herds. Right? You're either the herd of this, or you're the herd of that, and then now follow everyone over in this direction. And
real fast. Can you explain and give a little bit more detail about how you don't want to be simplified, but you like being intentional? Because I love that. I currently struggle with this podcast because I know that I have this intention of educating, uplifting, inspiring. And then I also want to bring my humor into it. But sometimes when I have guests who don't follow that parameter at all, I have this very interesting, unique episode that's kind of hard for me to understand or even simplify. So how does one kind of push forward towards being intentional and not simplified? And maybe what's the difference between the two? Because that's very good. It's a very good learn.
Yeah. The simplifying is just kind of chunking down and dumbing it down. Being intentional is having clear boundaries. Like in your case, your podcast is very unique, where you bring in people from all different walks of life, and you have humor as part of it. You have all of these different aspects, which are if you want to look at it from a code of honor. When you look at it from a code of honor, you have different aspects in a code of honor. And now when you're following that code of honor, now you're being intentional. And by being intentional, it then now you're having a clear overall view of these are the aspects that I bring within my podcast. These are the aspects of who I am in my uniqueness, in my being the way that I am. And now you can be consistent with it. It might simplify it because you now have a clear outline of what you stand for and who you are. And if you look at big brands, they're very clear about that. It's not necessarily simple, but it's definitely intentional, right? I brought the example of Coca-Cola earlier in a different call, and how Coke made the beautiful. It's funny that we use Coca-Cola analogy already twice in this podcast because you introduced me as the Coke recipe. That's funny. I don't drink
Coke recipe.
Yeah, original Coke recipe. I don't drink Coca-Cola because it's sugary and it's that just not who I stand for, right? I'm being very intentional in what I allow in my body. But when you study the marketing of Coca-Cola, what they do is spot on, and they leave nothing up to fate. I mean, everything is thought through to the T. And if you look at the new banners, or not banners, the billboards that they have up at the interstates, you might see, and you might have not been aware of it, but you might now see the new Coke logo wrapped around, almost coming in like a hug. So they're speaking to what people are yearning for. People, 2 years now after the lockdown, people are yearning for human touch. People are yearning for you to come in and have that connection. And how do you bring that across in a 2-dimensional billboard? Like, it's almost miles away from when you see it, but yet you feel connected because it's wrapped around. And when you look even closer, you see that it's wrapped around a Coke bottle. So it's genius. It's not simple, but it looks simple.
Trying to give the people what they need at such a different dimensional level, because you're getting physical touch from an image that you're seeing, and it's correlating that message in your brain. Like Coca-Cola and all these like giant companies by studying them, it's like taking a master class.
Oh, for sure.
But I also know that the intentions behind it have to be with profit, right?
Oh,
because it's a company. And studying neuro-linguistic programming, as well as dabbling in psychedelics, I can see kind of like the facade behind things, and not the facade, but the tools and the gimmicks and it's a show. All advertising is a show, right? And some of them do it at such a high level. The hypnosis is so subtle, and you're able to be captivated it, and you don't even know that people are using it to hit all 5 senses, to spark feelings of emotional connection. Like, these are all things that you have to understand going into it to even see it. But if you're completely unaware, and I'm assuming that like more than 95% of the world is just unaware of it, they have to be. So seeing behind the curtain, one of those tools that you use and that I use is neuro-linguistic programming. Can you give a quick little, not an example, but a definition for those who this may be the first time hearing it?
Yes, for sure. And I want to speak to what you just said.
Of course.
No one can be hypnotized against their values. Now I'm coming back to the core values and your own code of honor. When you're so dialed in and you're intentional with what you value and what you stand for, nothing can be sold to you against your will. But if you're not clear on what you are in your identity and what you stand for and what you truly value, then it's like, oh, and there's this shiny object. Oh, and then there's that shiny object. And let me buy this and let me do that because I have not identified myself. Right.
Interesting. Because then my follow-up question to that is like, how would one find out what one stands for? Because even now I have trouble identifying who I am, because the question itself is so malleable. But the integrity of the core of me is the same.
So there's a core, and that's why it's called core values, right? There's the core values, there's your code of honor. And that code of honor is a living document. When I create a code of honor with my clients, I say, hey, it's a living document. It takes all of the pressure out. Oh my gosh, I have to be, or my company has to be this for the rest of my life. No. And your core values will change as you grow, as you will have, you go through seasons in your life. Your core values, some of them will adapt, will change. Like before I was a mom, I wasn't really the big nurturing type of person. I was let's just go out and do it and let's go crush it. And, and I bulldozed over a bunch of my friends to a degree where, I totally burned that bridge. When I became a mom, I realized there are humans I'm protecting now that I want to, not just I have to, I want to become softer. I want to become more caring. So going back to the question that you had, NLP, and we're going to probably bounce back to some of these questions back and forth.
This is a wonderful conversation so far. I love it.
I love it too. I love it. NLP, Neuro, Linguistic Programming. So let's take it apart. 3 words with making up one big phrase. Neuro, your brain. It's your operating system. When you look at a computer, that's everything that's happening here. Your thoughts, right? All of your memories are stored here. Where you're storing your internal representation. What that means, I'm going to come back later. So that's the neuro part. That's the brain. That's the operating system. Linguistic is the communication, verbal and nonverbal. So sometimes I have to tell my face separately to shut up. That means I'm not talking anymore. My mouth is not working anymore, and yet my face is still talking. I think we've all been there at some point in our lives. We're like, oh, I gave away something, although I didn't say anything.
I have this thing where I have such a vivid imagination that I have full-blown conversations with replies in my head. So I'll be driving and my hand will just be doing as if I'm having a conversation, and my wife will be like, who are you talking to? And I'm like, what? And I'm like, did I say something out loud? She's like, no, but your face and your hands are going as if you're having a debate with somebody. And I'm like, yeah, I was having a debate with somebody, actually. I was imagining a scenario that'll never happen. I'm really good at it. But interesting enough, and then I'll let you get back to the NLP thing. With a therapist, I've actually discussed, why do I disassociate so much? And she came to the conclusion, and I think it's pretty solid, that in a world where I'm very anxious and everything is out of my control, I escape to a world that I have full control over. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a really cool little insight to myself, and very big advocate of therapy.
Yeah, me too. And when you have that ability to disassociate, it's also, you are not in it. You are not part of it. And therefore you can draw other conclusions than when you're so in it, that your emotions are so high that you don't even know what to do next.
That makes sense, because all of my imaginations are in third person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So at some point you have learned and programmed yourself to disassociate as the coping mechanism, probably.
Yeah, for sure.
So NLP, neuro, brain, linguistic communication, programming of behavior. So the programming part, a lot of people go, oh yeah, NLP, big manipulation, programming, blah, blah, blah tool, right? I have to say, yes, I have seen people really misuse the incredible strategies of NLP. And it makes me not just sad, it makes me livid. It makes me furious, because these people have probably gone somewhere on YouTube University and learned a strategy and then sold someone else something they didn't need.
You know who uses neurolinguistic programming?
Who?
Pickup artists.
Oh, yes. Oh, totally.
Big time. Because I used to be big into the pickup artists, but I had already learned neurolinguistic programming. So when they brought it up, I was like, oh, I already know this. but it does work. Like it's communication, and I love neuro-linguistic programming. I apologize. Are you done with your definition?
No, not yet. But
okay. Let's go ahead and finish your definition, because I would love to talk about, like, especially the communication aspect of it, because I feel like that's what my purpose is. What it ties back into my purpose. It ties back into like what the purpose of this podcast is. So let me let you finish your definition.
So programming. The programming of behavior. And there, like I said, there are plenty of people, pickup artists, that will misuse it all day long. And they will smirk inside of their own little, brain. They think they're genius. Mm-hmm. And it gives NLP a really bad reputation. Mm-hmm. Now, people ask me, because this is one thing that I bring up very frequently. And people ask me, so what makes your NLP so different from what other people teach in NLP or use? And I say, well, you can influence and have an impact on people, or you can manipulate people. And the only difference is the intention behind it. And that's it. And I'm going to say that again, because that really needs to land with people. 100%. The intention and impact versus the manipulation is simply the intention behind it. And that's it. The
influence and impact is versus manipulation
is the intention.
And it's just the intention. That's what makes those two so different. And that's what puts you on one path versus the other.
Exactly. Wow. It's the intention behind it. So what are you intending? Are you intending to pick up someone for the gain of your own pleasure, and then just kind of throw that person away the next day? Or do you use NLP to sell your, half-assed product or service to someone that doesn't even need it? You're clearly not being of service to that person or providing a solution to a problem they have. So it's always a one-way street when you do it that way. It's one win, and it is driven by ego. But the people that I teach and we certify NLP practitioners, it's got to be a win-win-win, Nate. It's got to be a win for them. It's got to be a win for the other person that's involved. And it's got to be a win for the greater good. And if those three wins are not in place, the intention is clearly ego, and it's out of integrity.
Very interesting definition. I love your take on the fact that it has to have that third win. It has to be good for the greater good, because it may be good for the two of you, but what if you ruin a river, or like force someone else out of their home? Or if you ruin a family. Yeah, ruin a family. Yeah,
ruin a community. Yeah.
These are some mind-blowing lessons. I love it. Thank you for being a guest. This is fantastic. To speak upon like the communication of it. So yes. I believe that my purpose is to uplift, educate, and inspire others to communicate masterfully so that they can better understand themselves and the world around them. Okay. And I use my creativity, humor, and knowledge in order to do this. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that I want to teach people how to communicate masterfully, and why I have such an emphasis on communication, because I truly believe that the words that you use in conversation with others and yourself and with the environment around you dictate your perspective and your perception of the world. So if you shift your perspective, you can literally change the world around you. And that comes with communicating. And I think that that's why I really like the medium of a podcast, because I'm able to not only, the more I talk, the better I understand my own thoughts and my own behaviors. But the more conversations that I have with people, regardless of whether they're high level like this, or maybe not at the same caliber, because I've had some guests who just, and I love them. I love them as people, and I have good times with them. But I had them on the guest, and it was like, I still gain something from the conversation. But I always feel like, is the episode aligned with my intention? And I guess it's to show how we come to thoughts, how we process thinking. And I'm never going to get it 100% of the time, but I do my best to be consistent.
In NLP, there is one strategy, and you probably remember it. It talks about the ecology of any situation. and considering the ecology of a situation. Does it serve you? Is it in alignment with your code of honor? Is it in alignment with what you stand for? Is it in alignment with what the podcast stands for? And being okay to, pull the strings and say, no, this is stop. It's not working.
I have now created a formula and questions, so that way, if the conversation starts derailing, I can be like, no, let's come back here. This is the sandbox that we play in, right?
Yeah.
So that way, because with you, I don't have to have parameters. I already understand, and you have an understanding that when we're speaking, we're going to speak with love. We're going to speak with the intention of helping. Like, it can already just, you're oozing with greatness, right? And then some people really haven't stepped into their power or understood what their intention is in the world either. And maybe that sometimes manifests in the audios themselves. So deleting them and then recreating structures so that way it doesn't happen in the future. I have full intention of re-interviewing the people that I had already interviewed with this structure, because I believe that they're brilliant people.
Yeah. And isn't it beautiful when you can have that kind of feedback and learn from it and not go, oh, well, that was a total, bummer and failure. No, there's no failure. There's great feedback, but there's never failure. And there's only failure if you don't learn from the feedback that you're getting, then it's just, okay, we didn't learn anything from it. That's a bummer. But the feedback that you're getting, I actually want to create some guardrails around this. I want to create a structure around it. Right? When you were talking earlier, I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun for Nate to have a few, like an intake form or a questionnaire for his podcast, so people can be.
When you sent me your intake form to be a guest on your podcast, and the way you have like questions picked out and your structure, I love that. I sent that to my editor immediately, and I was like, this is the level I want to be on. Yeah, right.
That happened through time. So allow yourself, and this is not just, for me or you, this is for everyone that's listening, allow yourself for it to just evolve and transform.
Yeah. Fail and fail fast.
Yeah. Get feedback fast.
It's the fastest way of doing it. Throw it out there, see what sticks to the wall, figure out why it stuck to the wall, figure out what needs to be improved, how to make it better. Same thing with joke writing, because now I've taken up to comedy, and I've taken up comedy. I've been doing shows, and I'm a year in to the game, and I'm now playing more shows this year than I had last year, which I'm already, crushing my little goals. And it's a communication with the audience. It's a conversation. It's like, let me see if I can let you into my brain and we can come to the same conclusions. Can we both laugh at the same things? And it's really, really funny how like one little line could tweak the difference between everything. Like I had a joke that just, it would get to the haha part and then it would die. And the line I would say after the hit of the joke died. And it was just like, I don't know why. I always get I get the laugh in the same place, right in the middle. And then at the end, it tapers off. So what little adjustment can I do to get that little laugh? Do you want to hear the joke? It's so silly.
I do. I want to hear. Of course, I want to hear the joke.
So, something that's not talked about enough in relationships is that women steal guys' clothes way too much. Like, I understand why they do it, because our clothes is thicker. It's superior. We have better pockets. Like, I understand why you steal our clothes. But it's supposed to be cute, and it is, until it's not. Because the other day, my wife was coming home. Her stomach was feeling really upset. She decided to trust a fart, and she shit herself. But lo and behold, she didn't shit her pants. She shit my pants.
Yours.
Right? So now as revenge, what I've been doing is wearing her clothes and shitting myself. But the only thing that fits me are her fishnet stockings. So there's a lot of holes in my plans right now.
Oh my gosh.
So that last part was the new part. That part as the part about revenge, that's brand new. What I used to say was something else, and it would just like crickets. Like, people would laugh at the poop the pants part, and then I would say something and crickets. And I was like, it on an individual level, it'll make somebody laugh. But in a crowd, it just doesn't make anyone laugh. Now that I got that revenge part, it's so much funnier. And then the punchline is my plans have a lot of holes in them right now.
I love that, because what you're doing is, and again, looking at it through an NLP lens, you're giving people with your words a lot of visuals in a very short time. And you're really playing with all the senses.
Yes.
Right? If people can feel it. We've all been there at some point. People
Everyone
can feel it. Yeah, we can feel it. Of the feel. It's not a pre. But then you bring in the fishnet. That takes. I mean, that's hysterical, I think.
Yeah, and that was the part that got worked on like yesterday and just got implemented, and I've been getting such good feedback. So like I fail fast. Like I have a joke. It kind of works. How fast? How can I tweak it? Can I say this? Can I say this? Can I say the timing? And nothing changes. And then it has like, okay, let's do a quick rewrite. Let's change that one part. And now I'm getting great feedback. Right?
Yeah.
But it took like that joke itself took 3-4 weeks to write.
Because you're testing it.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people nowadays kind of try something, don't nail it, and then just give up.
Yeah. Because they think, okay, it's got to be a one-hit wonder, right? It's going to be one time. I'm going to do it one time, and it's going to
go
be
viral.
Like, yeah, now I'm going to go viral. Well, no, with your first TikTok video, you're probably not going to go viral, and with the 10th one, you're probably not going to go viral unless, I don't know, you probably have different facts there, but the consistent, the persistent of wanting to do a little bit better. And testing it, and not just testing it in your head, but testing it with other people. So the communicating masterfully. When you said that earlier, there's so much greatness in what you said: uplifting, educating, communicating masterfully, with humor and knowledge. You put humor and knowledge. There was a third one that you put in there. What was that?
It's creativity, knowledge, and humor. They're like, what do you bring? So this was an exercise by Jack Canfield in his book, the Success Principles, whichever one that one was. And he had taken the idea from somebody else, and he credits them in the book. But Jack Canfield said, if you can imagine a perfect world, what would make it a perfect world? Like, what is the missing ingredient? And to me, it's like it's like effective, masterful communication, because the difference between seeing the world as this beautiful, abundant, shining place that only wants to love you and support you versus seeing it as a miserable, disgusting, terrible place where everybody's out to get you is a single perspective shift. It's really about like how your environment is. And even in terrible environments, shout out to Viktor Frankl and Man's Search of Meaning. The one thing that the Nazis could never take from Viktor Frankl was his ability to react to the situation that he was in. So because he chose not to see everything that was happening around him as a terrible situation, he's just like, this is just a moment in time. He's seeing it from a place where he was able to control his reactions and emotions to what was happening to him. And that's got to be one of the worst places to be. So with the and that stems from his communication with himself, because at the end of it, that's all you really have control over at the root of it. And then it goes into like believing thoughts, questioning thoughts, believing the ones that serve you and not the ones that don't, and so on, so on, so on.
If you're not getting the results that you desire, you want to check in with your thoughts and communicate better. Now, the communication part is one thing. It's the comprehension part that is an add-on to the communication, right? So being a better communicator and more masterful with others is also to comprehend or at least relate to other people's model of their world. Empathy. To relate to totally. And you know what? There's some resistance within me, Nate, and I don't know where it's coming from. And I just realized it again. The word empathy has been almost misused, or it's being used too often.
It's become a trendy word.
Yeah, but and I want to say 80% don't even know what it means.
I'm actually going to Google the definition right now. So I have a clear understanding of it because I have an understanding of it, but let me see what the Google definition is. So Merriam-Webster, Oxford language says the ability to understand and share the feeling of another.
Can we always understand the feeling of someone else? I don't think we can.
We can't. And that's kind of like one of the words that I struggle with in the intro is because I use the word, I want people to communicate masterfully so that they can better understand themselves and the world around them. But to understand, meaning to actually go through what they had gone through their perspective. And I will never be able to do that. I will only be able to go through what I go through.
Yeah, relate is the better word. And I'll tell you a quick story, if I may. Many years ago, when I still ran the Montessori school, I'm out of the day-to-day operations now. One of the parents called me after hours, and she's crying. And she has 3 daughters in my school, or had at the time. And her little one, she was 3 years old at the time, was diagnosed with leukemia. And the mother called me in tears and told me the diagnosis of leukemia of her youngest daughter. And she's crying, and I'm crying with her. And to show compassion, this was heavy, right? And I'm like, oh my God, trying to put myself in her shoes, what would happen if my children would come back? I would be devastated. Mm-hmm. And all I wanted to do was soothe her and show her compassion. I said, I understand. And she went ballistic.
Yeah.
And shooed me a new one over the phone and said, you will never be able to understand.
Unless it happens to you.
Exactly.
But even then, if it happened to you, God forbid, we're not saying it will, knock on wood, to go through it is so different. Because I had my dad beat his cancer this year, right? My dad beat his cancer, beat it in a year. He went through it smooth. That is not the case with every person. Everybody's battle with cancer is so different, right?
Yeah.
So even though cancer is like this universal thing that everybody will experience either themselves or through someone else, you will never understand truly what that person went through. And what do you say in those moments? Because from what I was told in neuro-linguistic programming, you say I hear you. I see what you're saying. I can feel your pain. I appreciate there's words around it because we're learning to say understand. Again, it's also chunking it down to something simpler. It's like to comprehend. I can empathize on a level of I can understand that sucks, but to the degree that it sucks for them, I can't.
But let's go back to when I said, what does NLP stand for? Neuro-linguistic program, neurobrain linguistic communication. Our communication is made of verbal and nonverbal. And I think we have been conditioned and programmed over the years to always have something to say. But you know what? A pause, silence, being there without words is as important, if not even more important.
Just sitting in silence and actually holding space and not having a response. I've offered people that. I'm like, hey, do you want me to tell you where I stand with what you're saying? Or do you just want me to listen? Because I can do both.
Good question.
I always ask. So when people come to me and they're mad at me and I'm like, look, do you want solutions? Do you want to work on it? Do you want me to be because for the people that I love most, I don't care if you're wrong. If it's fuck that person, it's fuck that person. I'll stand behind you because I love you. Do I truly believe that person deserves a badness? No. But because you're upset, I'll be upset with you. But that's just me holding space. Now, if you're in the wrong, just be like, hey, Brigitta, would you like me to tell you how it is? Or do you just want me to be mad with you? Because I can do both. If that's because I love you, right? That's because I care about you. But for most people, it's you don't. And sometimes for yourself too, I feel like we choose to not see where we're wrong, truly what's wrong, because the problem is so in our face. And that's what NLP is an ability to step away from it and look at it from a different perspective and be like, you know what? Maybe I am a little wrong here. Actually, good example. yesterday I made an absolute fool of myself because there's something wrong with my phone. I had called in to the warranty people. They rejected it because it was something wrong with the phone programming itself, not with it's not the screen wasn't cracked or anything. It was like the internal parts that were messed up. So I had to do an exchange. So now this is my second time calling. They send me a phone to a T-Mobile location. I go there. They're the only store in Texas that doesn't do phone exchanges. So they have to cancel the already order. And I'm already dealing on a broken phone. And then they send it out again to a third place, right? So now this is the third time I'm doing this. I get the email confirmation. It says it's at the store. I live on the street called Parmer, right? It's a big old street. There's only one T-Mobile on Parmer. So I go there and it's permanently closed. So now I'm furious. So I call T-Mobile and I'm not trying to go off on the guy, but I am so upset because he wants to send me to Assurant. He wants to send me to this other place. He wants me to do all these things. And I'm like, I just need you to send me a phone that works. And finally he says, he's all like, I can see that your order was delivered in the store. And I'm like, what store? And she says, I can't see the store. It just says Austin, Texas. And I'm like, well, of course you can't see the store. The store's closed, you idiot. And he's just all like, and he's just like, did you check your email? I'm like, of course I checked my email. So I go on the email. I see it. It says Parmer. I click on the map and it's the store on the other side of Parmer.
Never assume.
Holy crap. Did I feel like I didn't even know what to do. I just hung up on him. It's just I didn't know what else to do. I was like,
if you hear this T-Mobile representative, you're getting an apology here in a second.
Oh yeah. They send you a survey every time you call and I'm just 5-starring them. I don't care. Good 5 stars. But yeah, so even somebody who claims to be woke, enlightened, trained and okay, I have my days. I'm not perfect. My ability to communicate is not at a master class. I do my best and this is part of it. It's part of my journey. This is part of my growth. This is what's teaching me to be better and understand myself better and understand the world better. And by chance, it happens to help others. That's more the sprinkle on the cake than the cake itself. Because I really do feel like I'm doing all this selfishly for me, but it's at the benefit of everyone else.
Yeah.
Because the better I get, the more people I can help.
Win.
Yep.
You win, I win, and everyone that's listening wins. 100%. There's something in it for everyone, right? And it's interesting. The more you learn, the more you put yourself out there, the more you pour into yourself and you go on that journey of who am I and what do I stand for? And am I on the right track? Is this really who I am? What's my code of honor? What are my core values? All of that pretty much comes out in a moment of truth that I like to call it when shit hits the fan. Like I'll give you a very current story. Last week, my husband, Christian, our youngest daughter, Anna, 16 years old, and I went to the beach because we wanted to get away, leave all the work behind and chill like an absolute master at the beach. Well, what I didn't know or didn't think about is that it was spring break at the beach. Well, it was spring break everywhere. Well, it was definitely spring break at the beach. Like everyone and their uncle was there. And we were on our bikes because we like to ride our bikes everywhere. And we were on our bikes and there was just a group of obnoxious teenagers and they cut in front of Christian and Anna riding the bikes. But I kind of got stuck in between and then they cut in front of me and threw me, their tire and my tire met and it threw me off my bike. I just kind of slithered off my bike. And
did you murder
as
this pack of teens? Because I would have.
So I came to first. I was out for a few seconds, and then I came to, and I was just laying there, and all I hear is, "Oh shit!" So there must have been a whole group of people I haven't seen yet, a whole group was standing around me. Do you think anyone would have helped me up or got my bike up or something? No,
you would think.
I
right?
finally came. You'd think. I mean, it's just anyway. I get up. right? And here's the moment of truth. I get up. The first thing that I do is I scream at these teenagers and I go, your parents should be ashamed of themselves.
100%.
I didn't confront them. I actually made their parents. And that's my own programming, because that's what I teach. I made their parents in charge, which they are, because it's all about expert modeling. It's all about role modeling. And clearly they weren't good role models. Sorry.
No, absolutely. I like to think back on all the times where I was a kid and then I was doing all these things and I thought like I was just harming myself, but really I was harming my mother because I am a direct representation of her. And I am what speaks the loudest about her. It's like how I run. And then that's also partially why I do so well and why I do so good and why I strive to be so good. Cause it's like, I'm a mama's boy. I want to make mom proud. And I've gotten plenty of those times where like, I've been told and I hold on to those very dearly. But there's also a sense of like, I learned all those behaviors, especially being mean to customer service representatives over the phone from my mother. It's like, I love that about myself. It's so silly. I love that about her. I just know that if there's something wrong with AT&T or her internet or anything, it's somebody's day is about to be ruined. Her favorite line to say to me as a kid was, you're going to therapy anyway. I'm just giving you something to talk about. Right. And I love my mother. I adore my mother.
That's true. That's a great line. Why did I not come up with that?
Oh yeah. She would
what a great line.
Threaten me with and that's not even a threat. It was more of just like whenever I sat there to rationalize, just like, Mom, you hit me a lot. She's like, meh. You're going to therapy anyway. Just give me something to talk about.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. No, I didn't hit anyone. Although Christian did turn around and he came back and he said, did you hit him? And I said, no, I don't hit kids. I mean, they're just kids,
right,
but they could have
nose.
been. Yeah. I mean, anyway.
So like, I don't condone violence. I don't want anybody to think that I do. I'm being silly. Anybody listening, but I'm glad you're okay. I wish somebody would have helped you up, because if I would have hit somebody or somebody would have gotten hurt, the first thing I would have done was be like, hey,
right,
are you okay? Let me grab your bike. Are you fine? Like, even if I got hurt, I'd get up and be like, hey, are you okay, person? Like, was that my fault? Was that you? Like who cares? But like, are you okay? Because I know how bad a brain injury can turn. Like, that could turn into a concussion, that could turn into a stroke, an aneurysm, God forbid. Right.
Yeah. And I think that's where I wondered on my way, and then we got coffee on my way to the coffee shop. I was wondering, do they have that little compassion? Are they not even learning just your bare minimum compassion? Nope. The basics. Nope. Clearly not. What the frick?
I think it's the isolation of everything, because we are as a species, we are a group animal, right? We are pack animals. We like roaming in little families and huts and have individuals, and we can maintain somewhere around like 100 to 150 relationships, right? Anything past that, it just devolves. With the last 2 years being so isolating with the work from home, like I love working from home, and I swear to God, I hope I never go back, because in my job, it's perfect. But the working from home, the isolation, the social distancing, it detached us from everyone so much that we can't even give anybody empathy when they fall on the floor and be like, oh my God, that person is hurt. If I was on the floor, what would I want for me? So somebody to come over and help me. Okay, I'll do that for that person. This made me think of something slightly off topic, but kind of on point. I was told the definition of what a sin is, and a sin, as this person created a definition for it, is something that you don't want to happen to you. Mm-hmm. So if I don't want to be left on the floor after eating shit on my bike, if I see somebody eat shit on their bike, I have to go help pick them up off the ground.
Right.
Because if I don't, I'm committing a sin. Do I have any obligation to that person? No. But if I don't want to be stabbed, if I don't want to hurt anybody, I should not stab or hurt anyone else. And if somebody was coming up to me and it's the treat others how you want to be treated. But I love the definition of a sin being like, if you're doing something and you think to yourself like, man, that would suck if somebody did this to me, you're sinning. You're doing something terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care how you justify it. It's not good. And it's not even in a religious context.
Totally not. No. And you'd think it's common sense, but we know a thing or two about common sense. It's not.
It ain't common.
Nope. But, I want to go back to what you asked earlier about, schools and how are we setting up our kids for life? Are we really equipping our kids for life? Well, clearly, social media things, they're doing it, but it's not working at all. There are some great schools out there that actually equip our kids with getting them ready, allowing them to learn how to, create a budget and build a business or have at least some sort of outline for entrepreneurship. And our kids have gone to a high school like that, and that's incredible. That's worth every penny that I pay for that school.
Sure. And I think that along with like outer game, a lot of inner game should be taught. Like I don't see enough. Yeah, there's like anti-bullying stuff, but I've never had a course where there's like, hey, let's journal for a bit. Let's journal for 30 minutes. Just whatever comes to mind, just write it down, have it flow. Now let's dissect it. Let's talk about it. How do you talk to yourself? You just made a mistake. What do you say to yourself? What's the first thought that comes there? Is it, fuck, I'm an idiot? Or is it, what did I learn from this? How can I prevent this from happening? And as you're right, I do not think that current systems are equipped to prepare our future generations for what's to come. It's just molding them to be workers.
So we got to do as parents and as adults around these kids a much better job in modeling what we want them to be and grow up as. And that's not happening either. So we're failing on both sides, and that's a problem.
You've dropped a lot of knowledge bombs today. I would like something for the people who have no experience and who are listening for the first time, something they could do to maybe have an awareness of their behaviors, of their core values. How would they even begin to identify themselves? Do you have a tool or an exercise for them in order to, as a first timer, as a novice, what direction to start in?
Oh, you already said it, the becoming more aware, and the awareness comes through journaling. So if you are becoming aware of there is in a specific situation, you go into a specific behavior. I'll give you an example. One of my clients gets angry when he's triggered by injustice. And it goes, someone says something that is not, he knows it's not correct, or he sees something that is not correct or according to the rules. And it goes from 0 to 100. And it's really hard for him to not be completely a complete and utter asshole to that person. So his anger gets so high and his emotions are so through the roof that his intelligence is completely in the cellar, and it's just, F-bombs all around. And he doesn't get to the point that he wants to get, because he just totally burns that bridge in being angry. So the first step is become aware of your triggers, become aware of the behavior that you no longer want to have. Like he came to me and said, the anger is really an issue. Okay, so you don't want to be angry anymore. Let's look at what that looks like and really decipher it. So the first part is that awareness of what I don't want anymore, moving away from, and then what on the flip side, what do you actually do want to do instead? So if you don't want to be angry anymore, how do you want to be instead? Because a lot of people just say, I don't want to be angry anymore, but then you leave a hole. But we know, what happens to a vacuum. It'll be filled with the next best thing. And if you don't define the next best thing, it's probably going to be the old behavior. So with what are you replacing it? Those are the two steps that I would ask anyone to start out with. Become aware and journal it, and then have a replacement. But make the replacement not that it's like day and night. Make the replacement where it's similar but it's mellowed down. And then journal for a while and test it. And then mellow it down a little bit more, test it, and journal during those times. That is as hands-on as I would allow someone to be with themselves. Having someone in your life that will help you really define that and determine what to do instead and what you're moving away from is much more helpful than you trying to do it all on your own, honestly. Everyone needs a cheerleader in their life. May it be a coach, may it be a friend, may it be whoever you have in your life. But see that it's someone that has more knowledge in that area than yourself. My daughter and her friend, they like to coach each other. And I say, you're both 16. You don't come equipped with more knowledge, right? So you're kind of just spinning the shit around.
I mean, yeah, you're right. Now that you say that, that is pretty dumb. You're just like, it's the blind leading the blind. They're like, right. But it's cool that they even have the capacity to be like, you know what we should do today, instead of being on TikTok and, doing other things, let's coach each other. Let's go through it. Yeah. But yeah, they should be doing it with somebody who's kind of more experienced. And obviously they have a mom that's a master at it.
Well, yeah, but it's only the mom, but, and they have now realized that they want to have someone else that has a little bit more experience. So they found an older friend that has already been there, done that. So I like that they're getting to the bottom of that themselves. Mm-hmm. At least they're on that journey, right? And not just, like you said, sitting in front of their phone and being on social media all day. Man, that's a strategy all in itself. Just let go of all the social media, or at least be able to look at both sides of what someone is portraying on social media, because there's always two sides.
No, you're right. It's mostly a highlight reel. I even say that on my bio on Instagram. This is essentially just a highlight reel, which, there's nothing more said to that, but the meaning is you don't get to see the bad times. I don't get to show you the bad times. You never get to see the bad. Sometimes maybe if it's something like when I was hospitalized and the emergency room left me with a giant medical bill because I almost died. And then I had to, ask for help. But that was like one of the only times I've ever been super vulnerable and was like, hey, y'all, I need some, I know this sucks to do, but I need help. I need something. Like if I don't, I'm not going to be able to survive. Like that's how bad my job didn't pay me for the time I was off. The insurance didn't cover the medical visits. Like you don't see that on my Instagram. You don't see that on my Facebook. I'm so positive with what I put out there. And I know not everybody follows the same mindset, but that's the mindset I have. It's like, if I'm going to put something out there, it's only going to be something good. That then ends up creating envy and jealousy and terrible things, because you're like, oh, look at how perfect your life is. You're like, yeah, it's because of the parts that I'm showing. I'm not showing you the fact that I shit myself not that long ago. Or like the fact that I stubbed my toe, or I lost my favorite sweater, or that all these, the fight that I had with my wife, that wasn't on Instagram, the people, it's what you say with social media. It's just it's better off deleted, honestly. If you're not using it to create and promote yourself as a business, if you're using it for social media, as it says, it's not good for you. Yeah.
Vulnerability is strength.
Vulnerability is strength. I have a lot of male friends who don't think that it's good to cry. And I'm like, no. It's built into you to cry. Like if you're denying yourself your own biology, that's why you're also messed up. Maybe if you cried more often, you wouldn't be so overwhelmed constantly, because crying is so cathartic.
Yes.
Put on some sad songs. Don't stay sad. Don't stay sad for 30, be sad for 30 minutes. Allot yourself some time on your calendar. And then when the time is done, go on with the rest of your day. And
I went to the coffee shop and then I cried. I cried because I was mad. I cried because there's too many brats out there, and I cried because I hurt.
Yeah, sure. You got knocked off of your bike. Oh, it's my biggest fear.
My knee is messed up.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Last thing I wanted to ask you, is there a quote that you live by, or a book that you recommend to all the people that listen to here? Is there something that you like? One of my favorite quotes that I always quote is tend to the garden that you can touch. And I love that quote because it just says, focus on what you can control, which is yourself, and then what you can control in your immediate, right? Because if you spend so much time worrying about the weeds, you'll let your roses die. So tend to the garden you can touch.
And the book that I live by is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
I have that, right? Actually.
One of my favorite books. And one of the laws is always do your best, because we're most resourceful. There it is. We're most resourceful with all of the resources that we have available. And we can always do our best with the resources that we have. And that would lead into, it's not a quote, but it's a law that I teach. And there are many laws within my teachings. There are no unresourceful people, only unresourceful state of minds.
It's a lack of, it's not a lack of resources, it's a lack of resourcefulness.
It's a lack, it's a lack of the mindset that you're in. Exactly.
100%. Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements. Brigitta, this is probably one of my favorite little conversations I've had. Thank you so much for being a guest. Thank you for being such a wonderful person all around, not just a guest, but every day this is Brigitta. This is how she is every day, all day. You've opened your home to me. You've been a friend to me. You've been honest and always with integrity. And I love that about you. Tell people where they can find you. And you actually gifted everybody here in the audience something, which will be available in the descriptions on the website, which is carpenatem114.com.
So I came bearing gifts as the Success Laws checklist. I gave a few Success Laws while we were talking, and I love the conversation, and I hope that we continue the conversation. I know we're going to continue the conversation.
Of course.
Are you kidding me? You're going to be on my show. How do people get in touch with me? Brigitta@Hoeferle.com is my email. You spell it just like you sounded out, Brigitta@Hoeferle.com. If you have trouble finding me, just try the spelling, Google it. I'm the only Brigitta Hoeferle worldwide out there. And that is a true fact.
It's Hoeferle, correct?
That's correct. Hoeferle. Brigitta is spelled Brigitta. So first name Brigitta at last name Hoeferle.com is the email, or just Google Center of NLP.com and it'll come up there as well.
Well, Brigitta, thank you so much again for being an amazing guest and an amazing human being. And until next time.
Thank you, Nate, for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Carpe Natem Podcast. If you loved this episode, please consider leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Music or iTunes. It takes 30 seconds for you, but for us, it helps spread positivity to more people during these chaotic times. It helps build a community, and it makes me smile from ear to ear. Speaking of community, we have a Facebook group at www.facebook.com/groups/Carpe Natem. Just answer the 3 questions to access some extra motivation and inspiration for your timeline. If you would like to support the podcast, screenshot this episode, share this to your story, and tag me on Instagram at carpenatem114. That's going to be my handle across all platforms, including TikTok. If you would like to give me a follow, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please rate us and subscribe on Spotify or anywhere you enjoy your podcasts. And lastly, you can find all episodes, linked to resources, and opportunities for coaching and mentoring from me at carpenatem114.com. I cannot thank you enough for spending part of your day with me. You are all rock stars taking the necessary steps to be your best self, willing to do whatever it takes, and ready to grab life by the butt cheeks. So until next time, this is Nate De La Hoya-Reynoso signing off.